Hello everyone, welcome back once again to Hubris, and still nothing in the sky because I have been working on analysing what we have to work with on the other half of the hourglass. So down here you can see that I have placed strategically a grid of sea lanterns, because that's how you know lying has been in the area these days. And these mark the extreme points of different chunks. So we have about 20 chunks total. It's about a 4x5 of space, and it is, strictly speaking, about a 1 in 10 chance that a given chunk is going to contain slimes. So we are expecting to find 2 different slime chunks down here. Now, we're also at the surface. We're stood here at level 80. Down there is about level 60, which is roughly sea level. And slimes only spawn at level 40 and lower, so consequently, we've got a bit of digging to get done. And I managed to get replay mod working again, so consequently, enjoy this time lapse. Okay, so down here, away from our original death pit, as it were, we now have a carved out grid. In order to determine which of these chunks can host slime spawning, I basically have to dig all of them out. I don't necessarily have to dig all of them out fully, but I do need to dig them out enough that I can find out whether slimes will actually spawn in them. And we did actually manage to hit this, this ravine, a little bit of another one as well, which is going to cause some problems, but the more of these things I find, the more lighting up I can actually do to prevent other things from spawning near our system. And slimes are going to be a bit of a pain, because whilst they do spawn regardless of light level, I won't be able to use a flushing system on them as such, at least not like the one that we previously saw. I can have sea lanterns in the floor and such to provide light, which will prevent other mobs from spawning, but not the slimes. But given that the small slimes don't actually trigger any kind of tripwire, I'm gonna have to think about how exactly we're going to work this. So, up there, we're going to have our tripwire flushing system. Hello, how are you? I should have expected that. I've got nowhere else that things can spawn, and then I've just got this. Of course, there's going to be a whole ton of stuff. One down. Two down. And then a bunch of spiders. Oh, no, wait, there's a bit more. So, this brings up my next point, rather neatly, which is that we need to be concerned with spawning zones. So, come on, get away. Ow. It's fine, I have plenty of fish. Hey. Come on. Fine, I'll waste an arrow on you. Yeah. So, don't know if this area will actually spawn any slimes, but yeah. So, we're down here at level 40. And so this is where slimes begin to spawn. They can actually spawn much lower, but generally speaking, this is where you start. And up in the sky, we also need to have things spawning. So I need to have more or less both points where I have spawners inside of the extreme zone of spawning. And that is 240 blocks. Given that a given chunk is 255 blocks tall, that's not exactly difficult. What is difficult, however, is that beyond 128 blocks... it's 120 blocks in all directions around any given player, and then it's 64 blocks away from any given player, where this secondary zone of spawning happens. And what happens in that one is that mobs don't despawn randomly. So, for a decent portion of that 240 where they can spawn, they are going to almost immediately despawn. Beyond that, they will immediately despawn, which is why you go to about 240 blocks away from a big spawner that's collecting surplus mobs if you want to clean it out. So we actually need to have a system down there with slimes with sufficient space underneath it that it can transport these slimes back up to here, where we're going to be collecting them, that doesn't pass outside of 64 blocks. So the slime spawning pads, plus the actual collection system, needs to be less than 64 blocks away. So that means that we need to build our actual collection pad somewhere in the region of y equals 100. And then we will be able to, then we should be okay as long as the topmost spawning pad of our upper kind of system is less than 64 blocks, so about 160 blocks. Straightforwards. Building in the sky is additive, which is a lot easier, especially when you've collected a whole freaking ton of cobblestone. I should make some more, like, chests for that stuff, really. But, yeah, for now it's good. But it currently looks like I'm going to have to be doing a freaking lot of digging. So, I'm just going to stick a show on, essentially, and keep digging out these areas. I'll light them up as I go, just because that way I won't get mobbed the entire time. But I thought you guys liked me to see this. So let me know if you have some ideas as to what kind of system I should use for collecting the slimes. I will do a bit of prototyping in my little test world and such. Just put a torch down there. I don't think anything particularly malicious will happen down there, but you never know. You never know. Usually it will. Okay, yeah. So I've got 2 of these down, 18 more to go. Hi. Get off. Go away. Will you take damage? Jeez. Fine. Yeah. Oh, and you had a friend in fabulous pants. Okay. Fine. Yeah, I have no glitter for you. Okay, none here. Oh, there's a skeleton coming in behind him. Okay. Oh, I'm gonna totally hit the spider, aren't I? Really can't be dealing with both of you at once. Come on. I better aim than you. Hooray! Here. Tell you what, the show I've been watching recently, almost topically for that particular zombie appearing, is iZombie, and I've recently just finished up season 1 of 2. Ew. And I gotta say, that is a really good show. I was kind of expecting it to be less good. I mean, the concept is a medical examiner is a zombie and eating brains of people gives her flashes to their lives as they like digest or process, I guess, I don't know. And you would think Zombie Emmy Solves Crime would be a really cheesy, kind of bad kind of story. Turns out it's actually really good. Like, it has so many magnificent parallels for... parallels and analogies, I guess, for various kinds of mental illness, for drug addiction, for chronic illness. It is really interesting to look into it. So, let me see, what have we covered? Another thing that's really great with it is that because the main character, who is Liv Moore, or Olivia Moore, so yes, the ME zombie who solves crime, is literally named Liv Moore. Yeah, you can see why I might have thought this was going to be a little bit on the cheesy. But yeah, it's covered topics like PTSD, it's covered topics like artistic inspiration, of like, the list goes on. It does go on. And Liv is constantly in this kind of conflict, this internal contradiction, that she was a doctor, she saved lives, and she wanted so much to have her own, and now she can't because she's a zombie and she eats people. And she has to worry about where she's getting her next meal from, because if she doesn't, she'll devolve into a mindless creature that just wants to eat brains again. And it is a lot more entertaining and a lot smarter than its premise might give it credit for being. It's gorgeous that way. Where's the... Okay, there's the next one. Right. Ugh. Let me see. 16 by 16 times 3. Oh boy, it's a lot of blocks per chunk. And I'm gonna have to spiderweb this, because I can't just prep the entire space for being a slime trap, because I'll just end up with a whole ton of surplus materials. It'll take way too much time and effort, and I'll end up just burning through what few iron picks I can scrounge out of here, which is not gonna do me any favors, but yeah. But yeah, I've been watching that. I've watched a few more movies as well. Zombie movies are kind of few and far between at the moment, as near as I can tell, but that's mostly because I'm watching a lot of stuff on Netflix, so UK Netflix does not have a broad selection, it has to be said. But I did recently watch the Night of the Living Dead movie. The original Night of the Living Dead, in fact. And I'll admit, I hadn't seen it before, but I was very much in the conventional camp of it was terrible compared to Romero, and gotta say, I can see exactly why. So this was, for those of you who don't know, the general consensus of the Night of the Living Dead movies, to be exact, are that they are lower quality, worse writing, terrible acting, lower budget, this kind of, just every bad thing you could have, every problem that a movie could have, the Living Dead series tends to have it. And the way that it goes is that Night of the Living Dead was the original George Romero movie, and I should clarify, I mean Return of the Living Dead, not Night of the Living Dead, because Night of the Living Dead is a cult classic. I'm just kind of getting my terms mixed up. Okay. But yeah, Night of the Living Dead came out in, I want to say 1968, and it was in black and white, and they showed actual gore, and it was astonishing for the time, and all sorts, had wonderful political commentary. But there was a dispute between Romero and one of his pals in making Night of the Living Dead. I can't remember their name exactly. But there was a dispute over the name, more or less, over the copyright. Because Night of the Living Dead's copyright has a huge story in and of itself. And what eventually happened was that it was agreed that Romero would get to make the Of the Dead films, such as Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, Diary of the Dead, so on and so forth. Whereas the other guy would get to make the Of the Living Dead films. And the Living Dead films take the zombie mythos in a much different direction, so it's, Romero has it that the spread of zombies is a sort of supernatural, innate, inherent kind of thing, where anyone that dies becomes a zombie, whereas Living Dead has it that it is a military project that got out of hand and has, now, so basically you have to be killed by a zombie to become a zombie. Living Dead also is where we get that zombies are only ever interested in brains. It's where they grow brains and all sorts, whereas the zombies in Romero's Of the Dead films are predominantly non-talkative. So that's where a lot of the corny kind of zombie cliches come from the Of the Living Dead series, as opposed to the Of the Dead series. And oh god, watching Return of the Living Dead. Ooh, I can see why it gets such a bad rap. I can very much see that it was terrible. It was god-awful. Like, there's just a scene where a character takes off all of her clothes. She remains this way for a good long period. No reason, no explanation why she decides to do this. She just does. Pick up the iron, so I don't have to worry too much about resources there. Now, to its credit, this is not a thing I would have ever expected an old zombie movie to be something I could actually applaud. No one makes a big deal out of this. Her nudity is not played up for, like, sex jokes by the cast. She isn't, like, molested. She's not harassed. No one even really tries to flirt with her. She's just nude. So it's literal titillation for the viewer, but the cast, it's just sort of like this regular thing. Oh yeah, she does that. Just go on with our lives. So that's not something I expected. I wasn't expecting a scene where a character randomly strips down to full nudity wouldn't actually include the character sexualizing it, which is odd. But overall, I was in the camp of the Living Dead films being terrible, and I think I'm still firmly in that camp, because it was terrible. That was more or less the one laudable thing I could actually come up with in the entire movie. Yeah. Okay, how much more have we got over here? Just a 3x3, oh yay. What I wouldn't give for a destruction catalyst right about now. Oh, I am out. But I have wood and I have iron. So let's go to over here. There we go. Where I have this handy crafting table. It was in my inventory originally. It isn't anymore, just because I needed the inventory space, but, you know. Okay, get ourselves a couple of pickaxes. Don't need to worry about tossing away a bit of cobblestone. Here. Yeah, I think the next movie... Well, I also watched Spectral, which is a recent movie that appeared on Netflix, and it's fascinating, but it does have problems. Basically, ghosts start attacking people in a in a region that is currently beset by warfare. And yeah, I hear you. And it's this mad scramble to figure out what they are and how to fight them, that kind of thing. And I admit, building fresh, new, untested weapons to actually use on these things goes a bit swiftly in the course of the entire thing. It's pretty much MacGyvered together in a montage sequence in a matter of days, maybe. But, other than that, pretty decent movie. I liked the visuals. I liked, the usage of ghosts in such an unfamiliar way, where they become a credible military threat and not just a haunting presence in some kind of cliche haunted house. That was good. I liked it. It's always interesting in these kind of current times where classical movie monsters are taken in a slightly different light. But, anyways, as you can see, I have quite a bit more mining to do before we have a full proper test on where slimes can spawn around here. So, I shall leave you to perhaps investigate a couple new movies and whatnot, and of course, definitely I give my hearty recommendations to iZombie, and I shall catch you all, oh boy, next time.